Okay, some announcements, learning announcements. A year of learning sponsored by Julia and Boris Kagan to commemorate the year son Julia's father, Yusuf Ben Lato, and a month of learning sponsored by Annette and Jerry Cranston to commemorate the year sites for Annette's parents, Kenya and Joseph Zimmer, Unibad, Leah Parrots, and Yosef and Sarah Bazar. For tomorrow, we have a bagels and lox breakfast. If you made your reservation, you're all set. Next week is going to be the Scottish Lunch and Learn on Wednesday. Okay, the email for that will be going out today. That's about it. For the birthday club, if you signed up, when you have a chance, just please, you can give it to me or mail me $25. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back, Jay. We missed you. Hope all is well. This is part B, the second part of our discussion about Tsar Balei Chayim, because it's a lot to talk about. What I want to focus on today is not just the pain aspect that we shouldn't cause to animals, but also compassion, how you treat animals in halacha. Let me just go over a bunch of halachos that are from the Chumash, and we'll build on that. You can't slaughter a young, oso v'espino. Torah tells us you can't slaughter a child, a calf, for example, and its mother on the same day. But that is not even a question of pain. That's an emotional. We're concerned about the emotions of a mother and child of an animal. Also v'espino, it's one halach. We can't just kill animals unless we're already obviously going to use them for food or for clothing and so forth. But you can't slaughter an animal for no purpose at all. You can't boil a calf in its mother's milk. Putting aside the philosophical reasons for that and that idolatrous connection, but conceptually, boiling a baby calf or a sheep in its mother's milk is somehow ethically wrong, according to the Torah. We don't eat the animal's blood, something we don't do. We don't take the eggs from a nest if the mother is still present. We're concerned about the mother's feelings. We're allowed to take the eggs, but chase the mother away first. So we're concerned not about causing physical pain, but emotional distress to a bird. Torah tells us not to do that. When you slaughter certain animals, you have like a deer, for example, or a certain other fowl, you have to cover the blood, which is, again, a symbolic gesture. We're concerned about how we treat the animal. We're not allowed to castrate an animal. And this is a serious issue. Many people who have pets, it's a normal thing to castrate the dog or the cat so they don't have kittens and puppies all the time running around the place. It's a biblical violation. It's a serious issue. You can't eat Aver min achai. You can't rip a lid off a living animal and eat that. Again, it's a compassionate halacha. We talked about prika te'ina, helping to load and unload an animal so its burden shouldn't be too heavy. We talked about that last time. We can't harness two different sized animals together. You can't have an ox and a donkey pulling the same plow because one is much bigger than the other, and it will cause pain to the other animal, a discomfort. Shchita is the least traumatic way of killing an animal. We're allowed to eat meat after the flood. We're allowed to eat meat, but you do it in a way that is as painless as possible to the animal. You can't slaughter an animal less than 8 days old in terms of baby animals. This one is amazing halach. On Shabbos, your animals have to rest too. They're not allowed to do any malacha on Shabbos. It's all biblical mandates. We talked about sending a bird mother away. A halacha is that you have to feed your animals before you eat yourself. You sit down to your meal, have your animals been fed yet? Okay, when you're plowing an ox, you cannot muzzle the ox that it shouldn't eat some grain while you're plowing. This is a normal thing for animals to do, to eat. You can't do that. Pigeon, to redeem the firstborn of your donkeys. And also, there's a fascinating halacha. When we left Mitzrayim, so we left at night, Torah says, Lo yechratz kelev l'shono. Not even the dogs were barking to alert the Egyptians that we were leaving. As a result of that, there's a halacha, la kelev tashlichuno. So if you have non-kosher meat, feed it to your dogs. Throw it to you have to take care of the dogs because they took care of you when you left Mitzrayim. So there are many, many biblical halachos that have to do with compassion towards how we treat animals, not just causing them pain, but psychological trauma we try to avoid whenever possible. And it's the only religion, or the first religion, I think, that ever introduced this concept to the world. What I want to speak about today is how we are allowed to eat meat, given the way it's produced today. The way meat is commercially produced today, the way we eat eggs today, has serious, serious problems, not necessarily in terms of the technical aspects of kashrus, but in terms of the compassionate way we treat the animals from whom we get the meat and the eggs. Today's production and slaughtering methods very often ignore or violate the laws of Tzar Baalei Chayim. And the trauma inflicted on farm animals every year clearly violates these basic principles of Judaism and halacha. And I don't know how we could justify it. It's a big problem. There was a time when animals were on a farm. It was a local farmer, and they roamed free, what today we might call free-range chickens, for example. And you needed an animal to feed, so you slaughtered it. But they were roaming around free. They weren't kept penned up in cages, immobilized, not allowed to move. You wanted the eggs, so you go to the hen coop, and then you take out an egg. But the chickens were free to peck around. They weren't constrained. Today, you have factory farming, and it's a horrible situation. It violates every possible law of kindness to animals. There's so many in the book of Yonah, Sefer Yonah, right? You read it on Yom Kippur. And the very last pasuk, Hashem decides to spare the city of Nineveh and not to destroy it. There are 600,000 people there, and also many cattle. We're concerned about destroying the city and its animals, even. Ad kedei kach. Yeshayahu talks about the Messianic era. The ger ze'evim keves, or the lion shall lay down with the lamb, the leopard shall lay down with the calf, and the lion. There'll be peace among animals as well as among people. So it's a very deep moral and legal concept of how we treat animals, which are violated on a daily basis. And I just want to explain how the food that we eat is prepared. You should be aware of it. And I don't know what the answer is. I mean, there's so much here. Rivka was feeding the 10 camels of Eliezer. It's a lot of work for a young girl to do. to schlep water and camels drink a lot of water. And before they sat down to eat, she fed all the animals before she took care of anything else. All right, there's just so much here. Let's talk about modern food production just for a moment, because it's very frustrating. Rav Moshe Feinstein, in one of his very courageous shuvos, he forbids the eating of veal. We shouldn't eat veal, according to Moshe Feinstein. What is veal? Veal is the meat from a calf. And what happens is, because the calves that are raised for veal, they are forcibly taken from their mothers, put in small crates. They can hardly move. They are not fed properly to make the meat tender. And 800,000 calves a year, kosher calves, so forth, are created, CRATED, this year, every year, to provide veal. And he says that this is cruel, and you're not allowed to eat that kind of meat. Now, can we extend that concept to eggs that we buy and to other types of meat that we eat? And eggs are a serious issue.
Not as bad as the veal.
What's that?
It's not as restrictive. The veal is terrible.
Stick around. We'll see in a minute. Each year, 250 million egg-laying hens spend their lives in small crates, cages, never going outdoors, in total artificial light, not even able to turn around. And there are billions of chickens cramped together in factory farms just to lay eggs. There's an article by the Humane Society, of all people. Americans raise and kill 10 billion chickens, turkeys, cows, and pigs every year, most of them in factory farms where they suffer immensely. And they're crowded. Again, these animals, chickens especially, there are two types of chickens. There are chickens who lay eggs, and there are chickens that we consume. Both cases, they are kept in crates for the purpose of either fattening them up or laying eggs, but they can't even turn around. They sit in their own filth, their own excrement, and they're there for one purpose only. They're pumped full of chemicals. And these are the eggs that we buy every day. When you have your omelet, you don't think about it because you got an egg. There are 25 million animals a day are killed. And to produce the amount of meat and chicken and eggs that are consumed by the American public, it's impossible to do it any other way, to get that number. Cruelty to animals is an industrial norm. And there are places you can get free-range chickens, for example, but much more expensive. Putting aside the pollution aspect of all the excrement that accumulates, it being a threat to the planet, the carbon dioxide that's produced. Plus, raising animals for food uses up tremendous amounts of water when you think about it. 80% of our water is devoted to livestock production in terms of irrigation, in terms of crops, feed. It takes, let's see, 1 pound of edible beef. 1 pound of edible beef consumes 5,200 gallons of water in terms of all the things that's needed for it. It takes 25 gallons to produce a pound of wheat. Think of that. 5,000 versus 25. An American who eats the standard American meat-based diet uses 4,200 gallons of water a day in terms of irrigation, water for livestock, processing, washing, cooking, etc. A vegetarian maybe uses 300 gallons a day. I'm not pushing vegetarianism, but it's certainly something to consider. Also think about the pollution, the waste from there are so many issues here. I just wanted to bring to your attention the fact that the food that we consume is not produced in a way that is consonant with Jewish values of treating animals properly. Tsar Balei Chaim makes it possible for us to go into the butcher shop and buy a piece of meat or a chicken or a carton of eggs. The factory farming procedures that are used today are not in accordance with halacha. I can't say it any other way. The only possible exception is beef, with the exception of veal. Beef production is less problematic than chickens and eggs because the cows are generally allowed to wander. I mean, they're on a farm, they're corralled, and the shechita is relatively humane, painless, but chickens and eggs are very, very problematic in terms of how these chickens are raised, both for meat and for eggs. And I do not know of any kashrus organization that makes this part of their hechsher a priority, which is unfortunate. Now, again, if they were to withhold their hechsher, it would be very problematic and very costly, because in order to change the factory farming methodology, it would cost tremendous, it would raise prices tremendously. And the fact that if you visited a chicken farm for eggs or for poultry, and these are warehouses, right? These chickens never see natural sunlight. They're in a huge factory, stacked in crates 12 to 15 high, artificial light, pumped full of chemicals. They can't even turn around, and they're laying eggs. And the others that are raised for meat, also, the less movement they make, the fatter they become, which is better for the consumer. I raise the issue. I don't know what the answer is. Maybe.
Aside from recommending us to eat more red meat, do you have, are there anything, is there anything we can do to sort of compromise? It might raise prices a little bit, but it will give them less, it will create less sabra lechayim for the animals. Is there a middle ground?
I wish there were.
I wouldn't mind paying a little bit more, 10 to 20% more.
So what would happen? What would have to happen? There would have to be a massive outcry on the part of the kosher consuming public to get to all the kashrus organizations and demand that chickens be raised in a less restrictive environment because of Tsar Balei Chaim. If that would work, very doubtful. And if it did work, it would probably double or triple the price of chickens and eggs, which is expensive enough as it is. So I don't know the answer.
Why is there no outcry from PETA or from the ASPCA?
Oh, they do. The Humane Society and all of these animal groups, all animal rights groups are complaining. They've been complaining about it for years. That's where I got this information from. They sneak hidden cameras into some of these places to show the cruelty to the animals. I mean, in the non-kosher world, by the way, the slaughtering process is even more barbaric. I mean, they will stun the animals. They will shoot. What do they call those? Like I forget what they call them, but they would
into the brain.
Shoot some type of a slug into the animal's skull. I mean, it was horrible things that they do. Yeah. So again, the problem is a serious problem, and I do not. I mean, I know the answer. The kashrus organizations, if they would insist on withholding their hashgacha, unless these situations were corrected, it would be impossible, because it would raise through the roof the price for kosher meat and kosher eggs. Yeah.
Why? So what?
That's hashgacha on eggs.
No hashgacha on eggs, no, but the prices would go up.
No hashgacha on eggs.
Okay, but if they would allow chickens to roam free, or give them enough room in their kitchen, in their cages, to turn around even, and maybe expose them to natural sunlight once in a while, it would raise the cost of chickens and eggs. Forget about kashrus. And the OU, I mean, if you go to an OU certified or any other certified chicken farm, all right, unless they're free-range chickens, they're cooped up in these cages, in these crates. I mean, imagine a crate half the size of a standard milk crate, and a chicken lives its entire life in that crate, pumped full of chemicals. Nathan had a question.
Yeah, Wally, if we didn't eat meat and didn't eat eggs, wouldn't that be better?
Yeah, if we all became vegetarians, it would definitely have an impact on the meat industry.
That wouldn't have anything to do with our health. It would not.
Well, it would probably be healthier not to eat meat. That's another story.
Right.
But
Eggs too.
I don't see that as an option that's realistic, unfortunately.
So at least we have control of the food. But when it comes to clothes, when it comes to coats, right, we have no control of that. And I would think it's not any better how they treat the animals there. How can a person put on a big coat, a beaver coat?
Yeah.
Because over there, they're probably clubbing those animals.
100%. Sar Baalei Chaim would also apply to wearing leather goods, fur goods. Yeah, you're 100% correct. So we're going to tell all the rich Jewish women not to wear fur coats anymore. See how successful that's going to be. No seal coats, no mink coats, no ermine.
How about Hasidim with their?
Yeah, well, Streimels also. I mean, although there is a big market in fake fur Streimels, because it's much cheaper. Streimels and Spudiks also. But so again, you can ask the same question: how do Hasidim justify wearing a Streimel or a Spudik made from fur from an animal that suffers terribly in order to get killed for its skin? Again, I don't have the answers. I don't have the answer. It's the same question about, again, chickens and eggs.
You have a leather wallet, Dr. Greene.
What's that?
You have a leather wallet.
A leather wallet. Okay, well,
Cleaned up ourselves.
yeah, it's a question. Leather belts, leather wallet. I mean, all of these things are issues. It's fascinating. In the pre-industrial age, before you had factory farming, and animals were on somebody's local farm. So when you slaughtered an animal, nothing went to waste. And you took the skin and you made clothing out of it, or belts, or whatever you needed. What you couldn't use, you sold. And by the way, that's still done today. If you go to a slaughterhouse today, once they slaughter an animal, the blood, after some of it's allowed to go out, the blood is saved and it's sold to non-kosher butchers, because the blood congeals like chocolate pudding, and people eat what do they call it? Blood pie, whatever they call it. It's a Michael, what can I tell you? The leather is sold. Everything, the hoofs are sold to make gelatin. I mean, every part of the animal is used. The meat, of course, if it's kosher, is processed, but everything in an earlier time, the animals were treated a little bit better because they were farm animals. You had cows in your pasture, you had chickens running around. You needed a meal, so you take a chicken and you slaughter a chicken or you slaughter a cow, and it'll be processed in the local towns where you had cows slaughtered to support the people in the town. They were not treated in a way that would violate the laws of Tsar Bali Chaim, because it was local, and you didn't have. Once you got into factory farming, and it's big business, it's very big business. And I don't know if you can arrange a trip, Mendy, to visit a chicken farm. Kosher. Scranton, Pennsylvania is not that far away. Go to the Fink farm. Go to any of these big farms where they raise chickens and produce eggs under the OU and other places.
You got a Patterson to halal.
Well, the halal is a little different. But again, I'm raising the issue. We talked about Tsar Bali Chaim. You're talking about biblical halachos. And for some reason, the kashrus organizations have not been able or willing to take a stand on it. Because since the Humane Society is against shechita, so for the kashrus organizations to align themselves with the Humane Society would be somewhat problematic. But the Humane Society has some very good points about how animals are treated in factory farms. And I urge you, do your research. You may become a vegetarian as a result of it. I don't know. I'm not encouraging that. But it's a serious, serious issue in terms of not just kashrus. I mean, technically the animals are kosher. But the treatment of the animals until they get slaughtered is not kosher. And the treatment of chickens to produce eggs is not kosher. Even though eggs don't require a hashgacha, possibly on Pesach maybe, but that's a technical thing. But eggs don't require a hashgacha. And checking eggs for blood spots today is really unnecessary because all of the eggs are examined before they are processed, and any eggs with blood spots are discarded in the factory. It's done through scanning. So, I mean, I'm not going to change the minhag Yisrael, but nevertheless, the process is not kosher. It violates Tsar Bali Chaim at every possible level. Other than alerting you to this possibility, as part 2 of our discussion about Tsar Bali Chaim, all we can do is to try to maybe write to our local kashrus organization and encourage them to perhaps raise the issue. I don't know what can be done without raising the prices through the roof. You have a question? Yeah.
It's sort of a trade-off for the larger animals. The farm animals are no longer used in the farm because everything's industrial at the
Correct.
farm. So they're treated the best in terms of kashrus, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, farming today is all industrialized. It's all mechanized. And farm animals per se, except for small local farms, don't really exist because local farms simply, it's not economically feasible for them to even exist anymore, except for somebody's in the middle of nowhere and he raises animals just for his own family. But somebody, it used to be the farmer would take his eggs to town and sell it to the local merchant. So, if he needed to slaughter a cow, he'd slaughter a cow or a goat or whatever it would be to feed his family. If he had a few extras, he might try to sell it to his neighbors. But once you get involved in the food production today is big business. And whatever they can do to save money, they will do. If it involves cruelty to animals, so be it. But we are the consumers of those products that came from cruelty to animals. Yeah. That's a good question. In Israel, it probably is a little bit better because it's on a much smaller scale. But I can't say for sure. I would imagine that it's not much different.
You're saying you got this information from the society website.
No, actually, I got it. No. Somebody else did the research.
You got to be careful where you get this.
Actually, you're right. It is the Humane Society.
Of course, they got to emphasize that. Is that really true?
Wherever there is factory farming, it's true. And where it's in order for a business to survive today, you have, I mean, there are a few places, long-haired hippies run these free-range chicken farms, upstate New York, and you can get free-range chickens, and the eggs are very, very expensive because of the labor involved. You can get, there are a few places where you can get eggs from free-range chickens or even buy free-range chickens to eat, not kosher. There might be one or two kosher free-range chickens that I saw once out of town, some local out west. They have a local hashgacha. But it's just, it's business. It's business, and it's big business. And again, go online, Google factory farming. See how chickens are raised, see how eggs are produced, and then decide for yourself if you want to keep on eating chickens and eggs. It's a serious issue, and I don't know what the answer is. Yeah.
Empire kosher natural. It's not free-range. It's based without antibiotics or growth hormones.
Okay. So they don't inject it, but they still keep them in cages. So again, Tsar Balei Chaim, compassion for animals, these are not rabbinic. These are biblical mandates. And they're violated every day in factory farming for chickens and eggs. Not so much for beef. And although veal, as I said, is a problem. Rabbi Moshe says you shouldn't eat veal anymore. The only in Canada and in Europe, they've even improved upon shechita for large animals. Normally, if you go to a slaughterhouse, and again, this is somewhat problematic. If you go to a slaughterhouse, the cows are led into a channel. What do they call that? What's the English word for that? What's that? Like a tree, but there's another word for it. Anyhow. But the corral, whatever it is, they're led in one at a time, and then what happens is there is a hook that gets attached to one of their legs, and they are hoisted up upside down by one leg. Okay, so its neck is hanging down, and the conveyor belt brings it along, and it stops in front of the shochet. So the animal is hanging there upside down by one leg. And then the shochet slaughters the animal, and the conveyor belt keeps on going. That's how animals. Now, in Europe and in Canada, what they do is much more humane. They take each, and it's much slower and more expensive though. But the animal gets put into a pen, a cage that fits around the animal, and then the cage is rotated so the animal's neck sticks out, and then the slaughterer checks the animal. Much more humane than hanging it up. Imagine if you were hung upside down by one leg. So does that violate Tsar Balei Chaim? And these are all under hashgacha. I mean, the slaughterhouse that I visited, it's a fascinating place. They have a bunch of shochtim. Monday, they slaughter for Lubavitch. Tuesday is Satmar. Wednesday is the OU. Thursday is broilers. Every day it's a different hashgach. The same shochtim, different mashkiach every day. All right? But this is how the slaughtering takes place. That pen that tilts over is much more humane. At least the animal isn't frightened out of its wits, hanging upside down by one leg. Much more expensive, slower. You can only accommodate so many animals per day in that process. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. In Europe, and it's yes. They I remember my mother grew up on a farm, and she remembers they would take a what do you call it? Not a sieve, a funnel. They take a funnel, put it in the goose's mouth, and they would pour grain forcefully down the gullet to fatten up the goose. Is that still done today? Again, in commercial farms, maybe not. But in fact, what they do instead is they will inject all kinds of things into the animal to make it fatter. They will restrict the movement to make it fatter. So again, the geese, like the chickens, are kept in these tiny cages. They can't move around. They can't turn. They're lying in their own filth. They're injected with God knows what. They're force-fed. So the same thing applies to geese, chickens, turkeys, all the same. Yeah, to be aware of it is one thing. What we can do about it, maybe we should all write to our kashrus organizations and ask them how they answer this problem. How do they give a hashgacha on food that might be violating biblical concepts of tzar b'alei chayim? I'm not recommending you all to become vegetarians, but as I said, beef is less of a problem than fowl and poultry in the commercial production. But it's a serious issue that I just wanted to conclude our discussion on tzar b'alei chayim. Yeah.
I just hope that all the, no disrespect to any rabbis that are dealing with all this kashrut stuff, I hope they put in a fraction of that effort into talking about mitzvahs bein adam l'chaveiro and just being a mensch. Derech eretz kadma laTorah, and you know this how much time you wait between meat and dairy, or what kind of animals, or tzar b'alei chayim. Those are important, but the bottom line is we have more interaction, I would hope, with human beings than with animals, and there just doesn't seem to be enough effort with that.
I couldn't agree more. I think the effort that they put into kashrus, if they put in half of that effort to resolving the problems of aguna and some of the other issues facing the Jewish community, you're 100% correct. 100% correct. And these are also biblical issues. I don't have an answer. I mean, we can raise the questions. I don't have a good answer. I mean, there are suggestions that were made in certain areas, but they haven't been accepted by the mainstream rabbinical groups or the poskim. And whenever a suggestion is put forth, it gets knocked down for whatever reason, I don't know. Halakha.
Years, even I remember you have mentioned it as well. Years ago, before there were a zillion different kashrut, symbols, organizations on food, you looked a certain way and that, for ingredients or something like that. And it just seems through the years that the Orthodox, the Frum people are going more and more and more and more into chumras and on stuff that still is not related to how do you relate to your fellow man. It's like, I think the Kadosh Baruch Hu cares more about how we relate to our fellow man.
I couldn't agree more. It's like what Rabbi Yudin very often says, people are not as careful about what goes out of their mouth as what goes into their mouth. It's very, very true. The OK laboratories, the OK Heksher, for example, was originally started by George Goldstein's father. George Goldstein was a member of my shul when I was growing up, very nice gentleman, not very learned, but he was a chemist. And the OK laboratories, the original goal was, with the commercialization of food production, they set up a laboratory to determine the chemical components, the ingredients of products, if they were kosher or not, from a scientific point of view. There were no rabbis involved. These were all chemists. And then Bernard Levy got involved, and the OU became a rabbinic kashrus supervision organization, and then it kind of grew from there. But originally, it was simply based on, when we were growing up, if something said pure vegetable shortening, not just vegetable shortening, pure vegetable shortening, you would eat it. because you didn't have the multiplicity of hechsher that you have today. If it was, certain cookies, if it says pure vegetable shortening, that was okay. Today, unless it has any one of 100 different symbols, you don't touch it. I was originally, a couple of weeks ago, I was in Asheville, North Carolina. Middle of nowhere, Smoky Mountains. And where I was staying, so she wanted to know what can you eat? So I sent her a list of all the hechsherim that might be available. And many of them were available in the stores in Asheville, Carolina. They're all over the place. So again, the issues are real issues. Sar Balechayim, Ben Odom Lachavero, and hopefully B'mheira, Yibana Hamikdash, Mashiach will come and solve some of these problems. But until then, it's an uphill struggle. And you're 100% correct. Yeah.
One solution to Shiur's problem would be use the hooks that turn upside down for the recalcitrant husbands. I think you'll get more results.
Well, they used to be. I just, many years ago, a young woman who worked for me got married at a very young age, a shidduch that should never have happened. And the day after the wedding, she runs home to her mother and says, "It's not going to work out." The guy, she never should have married the guy. People knew this guy had problems, but they didn't say anything. And how she get out of it? So I said to her, "Don't talk to a lawyer. Whatever you do, let me get back to you." Because I knew somebody who was connected, not a Hasidic guy, but he was a connected guy. And he would have had somebody meet this guy in an alleyway and say to him, "Listen, your wife has an option. She could be a widow or a divorcee. What would you like?" And that would have been that, except the family was panicked. They went to attorneys, and it cost them many thousands of dollars to get a divorce that they didn't have. It was a big problem. And now there was a Hasidic group that used to do this also, to encourage recalcitrant husbands to give a get. And it worked for a long time until they figured, what, we can charge for this. And once they started charging, that's when they got arrested. And it was a big scandal. But the Rambam, is very clear. Makinoso achiyoma rosa ani. You beat the guy up until he says, "Okay, I'll do it willingly." But unfortunately, we can't do that today, at least not legally. But there are a lot of issues that could be resolved. Issues have been put forth, even by members of the so-called rabbinic establishment, but they have not been universally accepted. The only thing that works in terms of that is the prenuptial agreement, which is not accepted everywhere. Most places today, most rabbis, at least RCA rabbis anyway, will not perform a marriage unless a prenuptial agreement is signed, which stipulates that in the event of dissolution of the marriage, for every day that he doesn't give a get, it's going to cost him X amount of money. And that was ruled acceptable by many Gedolim, but there are those on the right who don't do that. And again, it's unfortunate that this problem exists. When one of my daughters got married, she married an attorney, and he had some questions about the legality of this prenuptial agreement. So I put him in touch with Rav Willig, and they worked out their language to satisfy him as well, and they signed it. Because I wouldn't be, I was Masada Kedushin for all of my children, and I said, I won't do it unless you sign a prenuptial agreement, which they all did eventually. But that's the only way we have to deal with the Aguna problem today, other than giving the guy a choice of his wife being a widow or divorcee. There's a lot of work to be done. The rabbis have their hands full, at least the rabbis that make these decisions, and we would hope that we don't have to wait until Mashiach comes for them to do the right thing. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your omelets.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Yishem and I'm Baruch Me'atov Yad Olam. Rosh Kam Shlot V'Cheinu.
Yeah.
Amen.
It's a good-